just in the US alone, there's about 1.3 million people with rheumatoid arthritis. That's those that have a diagnosis, right? And it is 3 times more common in women than it is men. This is going to come up as another question for some of you is why are women affected more than men? Because we are. Okay. But why is that? But think about the targets. In Sjogren's, we'll talk about the targets in a second, Dina. In rheumatoid arthritis, the target is actually against what we call synovial tissue. So in between on the top of your bones, there's an area of the bone called synovium. Okay. It's like a covering on top of the bone that's soft. That is the exact area in rheumatoid arthritis where certain proteins in that layer is under attack. And so as that layer gets under attack, that layer is destroyed. And then pretty soon, even the bone underneath it becomes destroyed. And this is where in rheumatoid arthritis over time, if you don't catch it early, that attack is so aggressive that you'll start to see the joints completely eaten up and your fingers even start to get morphed. And it is not just fingers. It could be many different joints, shoulders, elbows, knees, right? Any joints, any area that has a lot of synovial proteins in it are going to be under attack. And that is one of the most common autoimmune diseases is rheumatoid arthritis, which is just one of the diagnoses because it just happens to be one of the ones where we've identified a blood test for a couple of the proteins on the synovium. So if we do the blood test, we can say, oh, this person has rheumatoid arthritis. But how many people here have joint pain and they've tested negative for rheumatoid arthritis, right? And they're still experiencing these joint pains. Even on x-ray, they may even find that there's some really early changes in their joints and they're experiencing a lot of pain. Now, believe it or not, I said this like 7 years ago. Rheumatoid arthritis isn't the only autoimmune disease against, let's say, joints, right? That just happens to be one we could identify. Now there's such a thing as seronegative rheumatoid arthritis, which means that this person has all the hallmarks, all the physical findings, even the x-rays for rheumatoid arthritis, but that damn blood test is still negative. And back in the day, I'm talking like 3 years ago even, a rheumatologist would say, you don't have rheumatoid arthritis. There's nothing I can do for you. You know, women get rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's, all autoimmune diagnoses. Women get way more than men. Okay. What do you think is the typical woman who shows up to talk to me or a doctor with any autoimmune disease? What do you think is the typical person? It's definitely a woman, right? Because we know it's way more women than men. But what do you think is the typical age of that woman who shows up in the doctor's office for any autoimmune disease evaluation? The average age of the person I see is a 47-year-old woman. Women are also more likely to be dismissed, yet they're most commonly show up with these autoimmune diagnoses that can't be diagnosed. And worse yet, they're coming in when they're 47 years old because something is happening to these women at 47 years old. Perimenopause. It is a time of dramatic hormone change, okay? Anywhere from, believe it or not, 35 to 55. So that's why 47 is right there in the middle. But during that period of time, when a woman's hormones is changing really fast, it turns on the autoimmune attack. It makes the autoimmune attack like kerosene under a fire 10 times worse. So there's a sexual bias in the terms of women are the most likely to show up with it. Women are the most likely to be dismissed with it. Women who are going through it also are presenting with a lot of hormonal changes that impacts their mental health, their brain fog, their ability to advocate for themselves. And there's a big hormone link to this problem. So does that make any sense? Is this like an aha for people? And if this is making sense, type in chat. Did this happen to you? I want to know from everybody out there watching, at what age did your autoimmune symptoms present? And at what age did they get a hell of a lot worse? Type it in chat. In my story, just so you guys know, at the age of 36, I was diagnosed on my own pushing with early menopause at the age of 36. And they told me, oh, you're just getting older. No, I'm not just getting older and having menopause at 36. Thank you very much. What I found later, several years later, was I actually did the testing for autoimmune thyroid and diagnosed myself with Hashimoto's. And so it has occurred to me now that this is part of the MIS syndrome, is people who have Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune attack against the thyroid, their immune system likes to attack hormone-making cells. So what's the likelihood of those very same men and women with Hashimoto's against the thyroid, the hormone cells, have problems with their sex hormones or their adrenal hormones or the brain hormones or blood sugar balancing hormones? those cells look the same as your thyroid. So do you think it's really common for people with low thyroid problems to end up having tons of other hormone problems, blood sugar problems, and mental health symptoms? Because it's all part of the syndrome where multiple systems are under attack. So it isn't just perimenopause. It's when we deliver babies. It is certain times of the month when our hormones are going up and down. I remember that with Olivia that we're working with. Big hormone shifts causes big POTS symptom shifts, for example, right? These are clues. These are not cray-cray, okay? These are evidence and data that someone who knows what they're doing would be like, bam, 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 I know how to deal with this. But out there, it's like, oh, you're getting fatter. You need an antidepressant. You need therapy. And so I just wanted to point out, like in talking about the group of joint types, autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, it's really important to realize that there's thousands of different autoimmune diagnoses that could attack different areas in different joints or even in the bone, for example, or even in the ligaments or tendons that are not able to be diagnosed right now. Look, I can't help you by you watching this training, right? But what I can do to help you is I need to ask all these questions about all these systems. And I created a 360 health evaluation where when you go through it and you answer all these questions, it gives us a really good idea of what systems are under attack. So if nobody's really sitting here asking all these questions about these different symptoms and then generating a report and an evaluation and going it over with you, how the heck do you know it's connected when none of your doctors really understand that this is a syndrome, right? So if you are interested in doing the 360 health assessment and going through the evaluation and having us review the results with you, we're going to put a link in chat for you to do that.